All right, welcome back to Talk Test Prep. We have our experts here, Jessica Bush from Tutor Doctor in Jersey. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
And then all the way on the West Coast, Tutor Doctor San Diego, Miss Chris Leanne, how are you?
Doing well. Good morning.
Fantastic. Hello, and I am James Dolan with Tutor Doctor Indy here in the Midwest. We're going to talk about test prep, and now you've got your scores back. Now what? And just a quick disclaimer here, the purpose of this video is for all of you that already have your test scores back, whether that's a real SAT or ACT, and you've just gotten your test scores back. We'll take a second to walk you up to that process, but the bulk of this video is going to be, what do you do next? You like your score, you don't like your score, what is your college plan? How do we walk you through that? And so that's what we're going to start with. So hopefully all of you have already taken a practice test. Before you've gotten your real official test, you've taken a practice test. I know that's our methodology at Tutor Doctor, whether that's one through College Board or one of our many vendors that we use. Take a practice test, right? Everybody agrees with that. Take a practice test. Take multiple practice tests. There's lots of different versions available. Start with that. You don't want to go in blind to an official attempt. Why? Well, there are some colleges, especially those highly selective colleges, that don't want to see more than a few official attempts at an official test. And so if you go in with that first one as a practice, an official test as a practice run or a trial run, you may not like your score and you may not want that on your permanent history. And so start with the practice test, run a trial, do a practice, then as part of your college plan, sit for an official practice test. Okay, so let's assume you've done the practice, you've taken your official test. How do we get those scores, Chris? Is that something, do they mail them to you still? How do you get those scores?
I don't believe the U.S. mail is involved any longer, although carrier pigeons might still be. But you do have your website. When you first register these days, both the SAT and the College Board and ACT organizations make it very easy. You have to set up a profile and register to be able to take the test in the first place. So the good news, you just retain that username and password, go back to each of those individual sites, and there you'll find your test score report. There's also an additional document that College Board has made available, sort of an answers and explanations, skinny down version of it, where you can get a little bit of an idea of what type of question it is. And I believe they've recently inserted back the level of difficulty, easy, medium, hard. So I like to call it upper to mid-level detail. You won't be able to forensically dive into what you got wrong, but you'll at least see your scores, your section scores, the composite, and then get an idea of individual questions right and wrong. So you can go back and redo the questions that you got wrong to see how many you can get right the second time without the time pressure.
Okay. So it's not good enough just to know my score, right? Or even get down to that section level score. I need to get down to a section level breakdown. And if you get the detailed score report from either College Board or ACT.org, you can drill into that a little bit more. I know with a lot of the vendors we use, we can drill down even further and understand which concept, which core skill do we need to focus on, or where some anomalies are. Jess, yeah,
Yeah, I want to add to one thing we found along the way, which is a bit frustrating with the SAT, is when you get your scores back, you used to be able to get what was called the QAS, not anymore. So that means that we cannot see the questions you're getting wrong. We can see the types of questions and the percentages of what types of questions you're getting right and wrong. So we can't see, but we can't see the actual questions, which is why it's important to work with a company like us, because when we're working in our tests, we can see what you're getting wrong as you prepare. So that's a really important point I just wanted to add.
No, it's a great point. And just to add to that, not only can we see what's wrong when we build out a plan for improvement, we can measure that improvement, test over test over test, and make sure that your weaknesses start becoming strengths. So yeah, excellent point. So, okay, we've taken the test. We know how to get our test scores. They're back in. We either love them or we hate them, right? What is the determining factor, Chris? How do we know if we like that score? Are we measuring versus our peers? Are we looking at, do we have a target? Like what is a good score?
Peers, that's one measure, not one I recommend students put a lot of weight on. It's best to look at peers of a different sort. which is to go to the individual website of the different colleges you're targeting, or if you have access to a tool like Naviance or Score, which will be discussed in a little bit here. That's a great place. It's a basically big data storehouse of all the administration metrics of the different colleges that are out there. But the easy way to do it, build a spreadsheet, Google Sheet or Excel, and list down the column your target colleges, your safety, your target, your reach, 3 different types of colleges perhaps, and then go to the individual college websites. It takes 2 or 3 minutes at each college, so it's very rapid. And then find out what was last year's admitted freshman average GPA, SAT score, ACT score, and you've got the basis of a very nice college planning worksheet going. When you figure that out, and let's say you've got a list of 10 colleges you're interested in, then just drag in Excel or Google Sheet, find the average of those SAT scores or ACT scores, and maybe use that as a first order approximation of your target score. Then compare that versus what you received on your official exam score, see what gap there is, if any. So a quote unquote good score might be one that exceeds the average of last year's admitted freshman. But certainly you want to be, excuse me, in the upper 50 percentile of that range in order to have your SAT or ACT score be an asset for you. If it's beneath that 50th percentile of the admitted freshman at that college, then you may consider not sending in with your admissions packet unless the SAT or ACT score is required, and then you move on to step 2.
I love that, and that's forgive me for saying this, Chris, but that's a little old school now, because while you were talking, because that's exactly how I would have done it, right? Gone to an excellent website for the university I want to go to, look at their cut scores, look at the target scores, look at percentages. You know what we should do in the notes? Let's put a GPT prompt in there that can pull that data for all of the schools that you want to put. We just simple for all of those data points. We can post that just in the comments here, and then you can input whatever schools you want, and we can have the prompt include the website link so that you're not even having to type in the website link and have it take you right there. So that's a great idea. I'm just going to take it a step further.
Good.
You just made a lot of high school counselors very happy, and college planners perhaps.
Hey, use it for good, not evil, right? Jess, walk me through this Naviance or Score, because we don't use all those in our area. What's the advantage of those?
There's a huge advantage of Naviance and Score. And interesting, in different parts of the country, in the US, some high schools use them and some don't. Here, everybody's got Naviance or Score. So what it is a platform. Typically, you create the login when you're a sophomore, usually. What it does is it puts all of your school information regarding college into one platform. And then your guidance counselor is also tied in with it, which is really important. So sometimes I meet with some juniors and I say, have you met with your guidance counselor to talk about your college planning yet? No. Many times guidance counselors have, 400 or 500 students that they're working with. The students need to be proactive. Make an appointment with your guidance counselor to talk about college planning, and because they're such an integral part of this, and they have access and can work with your Naviance or Score account because it's kind of through the school. So sit with your guidance counselor, make a meeting, and talk about the plan. Because I don't know about other parts of the country, but here, your guidance counselor is an integral part of your application process, because they're submitting your transcripts and they're submitting your letters of recommendation. So those guidance counselors need to know where you're applying to college, and that can all be kept within your Naviance or Score account, including your test scores. So your official test scores go into that as well. So you have an overall picture of, and you can talk about the college planning strategy with your guidance counselor, which is really important.
Yeah, that's a great key, is that yes, it's their job, but it's what they do best, right? They are part of your college planning strategy.
They are.
It's part of getting you through your classes for high school, but that's all part of planning for your college strategy, making sure you have the right
if you've
course.
got a big school, you've got a big high school, you have to be proactive, because I've had some, no, they haven't reached out to me. I haven't even heard from them. So reach out to them and make a college planning meeting. Set up a college planning meeting with your guidance counselor. Because I have heard of students here that apply to schools and the guidance counselor has never even submitted the transcript because the guidance counselor didn't even know they were applying.
Yikes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really, really important.
So get engaged.
And one
get
additional
engaged.
way, I was just going to add one additional way to use Naviance to bridge what Jessica was just saying is to be an active user of it. We encounter many people here that parents and students, they, as Jessica said, they received the Naviance password maybe in sophomore year, maybe in freshman year, and they've never logged into it.
Exactly. And
it's a
parents
great
aren't
place.
aware. If you've got a
Right.
first-time student going to college, parents don't know.
Right. And so you can use Naviance in many different ways. For instance, if you're a champion cross-country runner and you received a medal, you can actually upload into it a photo that shows you with your medal and
Yep.
other events. You treat Naviance as a portfolio. That's really the way to look at this thing. Is it's a portfolio that that will be presented to the target colleges. They come in and say, okay, in your area, we're looking for all the students with a GPA of 3.7 and above who have taken 4.2 AP classes and received at least a 4. There's ways that they filter and select, and then they can identify which students meet those criteria. And those are the ones that many times will get the letters of invitation for the mixer or networking event that they'll host in the local area. So there's a lot of benefits that are out there. Some high school counselors aren't even fully aware of. So make Naviance or SCORE your friend if your school provides it.
Okay. So let's say one of those filters is my SAT or my ACT score and it's too low. Jess, what do I do from there? It's too, my test score is too low. I'm not making cut scores in all these schools. I've done all the research. Am I panicking? What do I need to do?
No, do not panic because we are here to help. This is normal and it's definitely expected with many students. Many students take 2, sometimes 3 tests, unless you're where you want to be. I have a kid shooting for a perfect score right now, and right now he's at a 1500. He, of course, wants to take another test. Go figure. But that's the most challenging, is to take a student who's at a super high level because he's only getting 1 or 2 wrong. And he keeps getting 1 or 2 wrong, and sometimes it changes. But you need to make a plan with us, with a test prep coach and tutor. Make a plan, because what are we going to do? Are you going to go on and take another test?
Are we assuming with that plan that if somebody came to us with an SAT score, are we assuming SAT is the right score?
Not necessarily.
Where you'll switch them up?
Not necessarily. I would then say, why don't we, if they have the time, and it's not the end of junior year, right? If they have the time, why don't you try an ACT practice test? Maybe your score is significantly better on the ACT, and then we could shift over to focusing on the ACT. Absolutely.
And we've not lost any prep work for that, right? Because math is math and English is English. It's just a matter of how that's being evaluated with those different tests.
Yes, because there are slight differences,
Sure.
with some of them. But
Sure.
but I always say, do not wait too long. Do not take too much of a gap.
Okay.
Because if you do, you lose that test prep momentum, and it's definitely a momentum, right? And you don't want to wait too long or take too much of a gap between.
But the opposite is probably true also, right? If I didn't like my score and I took it in August, I may not be ready for September or even
Exactly.
October, right? I have to put that effort in to improve
And
that.
that's what we do. We help you to create a plan. With test prep, planning is the most important. And sometimes that plan changes. I have a lot of kids right now who thought they were ready to take September, October. Now we're pushing it to December because they want more time. So they're changing their test date further out so they have a longer period of time to prepare.
Okay.
And one
there's-
thing to keep in mind there, if I may, if
Yeah.
you take a look at when these tests are scheduled, it's not like there's a lot of misunderstanding out there where people think, oh, I can just take the SAT or the ACT whenever I want. It's not like, no, these exams are administered on only 7 select Saturdays of the year. I think SAT just recently added.
They added September. Yeah.
But the bottom line is they are on specific days of the year. You can't just call somebody up and take a test. So, and the way SAT does it, they cluster them all into sort of a fall test taking season and a spring test taking season with a big gap between December and March. Whereas ACT tends to run about every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the school year. So all else equal, there have been some people that have chosen the ACT because its schedule is a little bit more regular and it tends to work around things like AP exams in the spring or even extracurriculars. So that's why it's important to take a look. And since we have such a broad audience that views these videos, we do want to say, for if you are watching this and your student has not yet taken a practice test, again, contact your local tutor doctor office to determine not only which test is best, but what timing, because the timing is crucial so that you can have adequate preparation and then target the test date that is best going to work around all of your factors, including sports and other events.
Yeah, great point. And I know, at least here locally, some of our larger high schools actually administer those exams on site. So
Yeah.
you may have less ability to select which dates if you're administering it at your high school. You may be told when you're taking it. So all the more reason to get involved with planning, get involved with the strategy. When is it good for someone to do DIY test prep or versus a guided prep like a program like Tutor Doctor offers? Either of you jump at that. I know you have ideas.
Well, with DIY, that's for some people may not do it yourself. We used to joke about that. Friends don't let friends do test prep alone. But there is some value to that, whether it's a class, whether it's self-selection, or having what we call an academic coach, somebody who's outside of you, outside of your individual perspective, who can view why are you getting not just what is incorrectly answered, but why. Is it subject matter? Is it test taking strategies? Maybe the student doesn't know the breadth of test taking strategies. This is a psychometric exam. These are designed in a certain way so you can't game them. And they are testing not only what you know, but your strategic thinking, critical reasoning skills, and so on. So there's the content, there's the strategy, and there's the pacing and timing. So understanding what you're getting wrong, why, and then how to go about improving it, that's key. And most 16, 17-year-olds, that's not necessarily in their wheelhouse. And particularly if you're, as Jessica has a student shooting for a perfect score, and I've got a couple right now as well, you definitely need someone outside of you that's got years of experience in helping work with a lot of different students who can give many different tips and perspectives to achieve that goal.
Yeah. Well, and just like DIYing a renovation on your house, right? You could get it done. It's going to take longer. It's going to be more expensive. You're going to make more mistakes. Whereas if you followed a structured approach like that, which Tutor Doctor offers, it's going to allow you to have that discipline, have that structure, have that regularity, keep that momentum that Jess talked about, and really target that score improvement. And so there's
so
definitely a case for guided prep.
It's so important for the kids to have accountability and consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency is the key. Even if we had some kids go away to Europe for 2-3 weeks this summer and you're losing the momentum, we tell them up front, this is not an ideal situation. We had one kid who went to Greece and he tutored throughout his whole time overseas. That's a consistent, accountable person.
Yeah.
That's somebody who's going to really, who score, you're going to see the difference in your score.
Mm-hmm. And going into the why of that real quickly, why? Well, because unless you have somebody and there's a structured program and there is that accountability of having that regularly scheduled weekly session with your academic coach or tutor, it's easy to put off because you don't have a teacher standing over you. You've got a social studies test next Wednesday and a calculus test next Thursday, but the SAT is off in the distance a little bit, so it can be put off. Or worse yet, you jam all your homework into 8 hours on a Saturday. That's not effective. That sounds like torture rather than learning. So that's why it's good to have a plan. It's good to have an external person help. Plus, there are many different ways that can be implemented.
Awesome. So here, in summary, if I'm sitting here with my test scores in front of me, I don't like them, right? I'm trying to decide, am I going to retake? Am I going to postpone? What is my next step, right? I'm engaging with my college counselor. I'm engaging, let's say, guided test prep. I need to determine to myself, am I going to put the effort in on my own? Am I going to hold myself accountable and set a future date for testing and do the work necessary to hit that date? Or do I need to postpone, engage with somebody that's going to help me along that path, show me strategies, show me content, bounce ideas back and forth, maybe take some additional practice tests, but really you got to figure out what score improvement, going back to what you said, figuring out from a school, what score is my target? Where am I? What is the gap? What score improvement do I need? Is it something I can do on my own? Do I need somebody else? And that'll help determine if, based on how many points you need to go up and what your time frame's available, whether you're ready for a retake after some effort or whether you need to postpone that. You also have to consider things like upcoming sports seasons, the schedule for AP exams or final exams, and how those line up with test dates. How about break? We got fall break just happened. You've got Christmas break that's coming up. Spring break will be here before you know it, and then of course summer. We've always targeted summer break for that test prep. But what does my break schedule look like? It's better to have a strategy going into this test prep. Yeah, Jess.
I think that's really important for students if they're going to do it yourself or you're going to think about your whole overall. You need to be realistic and honest with yourself. That's a key thing. You need to be realistic and honest because you're going to run into a problem if you're not. And I've seen that time and time again. Be open and honest with yourself about what you think you can actually manage and handle in junior year and what you can't.
Great point.
And two big picture whys we haven't discussed here yet, but in our other videos, which I encourage people to view on our channel, you can definitely see more detail there. But the two big whys are, number one, there's a lot riding on this. I don't want to over dramatize this, but there's a lot riding on this. College admissions, right now that the tests are coming back, many colleges have turned a full requirement of them. In some colleges where it's test optional, the majors can actually require a STEM major, pre-med, whatever. And there's a new category now called test recommended, which when you look at the admissions data, it really means required, but they don't want to come out and say it's required. So the reality is it is definitely a strength for you to have a strong SAT or ACT score, not a weak one, but a strong one going in. In some cases, it's required. Secondly, scholarships. Most merit-based scholarships have returned to requirement of a strong score. Why? Because it confirms a strong GPA. We also have seen a lot of students whose GPA isn't quite where they want it to be at. They look at the SAT and ACT as sort of a new lease on life to give them another feather in their cap as they go into the admissions game. And in some cases, that's made a big difference. And again, for scholarships. So there's a lot riding on it, admissions and scholarships. Many of the colleges are requiring it, but the good news, you're not alone. There's great advisors out there and great help to achieve your potential.
That's great. And I think just closing us out here, your test scores are just one part of the giant puzzle, right? There's a bigger college prep process that includes everything we've talked about in this and all our other videos and things we'll talk about next time. But use the resources you have at school. Use the resources you have in your community, like your local tutor doctor office. Your scores do not define you, but it lets you know where you stand now and what effort you need to put in to get to where you need to be. If you don't like your scores, you don't like where they are, contact a tutor doctor coach, set up a plan, set up a strategy. We want to, as we said, start with those practice tests, get into full exams, get a strategy, keep the momentum, set your goals, align that with what your college goals are, and let luck be on your side. And when luck isn't on your side, call Tutor Doctor and we'll help you get your scores where you need to be.